But my most memorable ghostly experience took place at the home I spent most of my childhood in. I don't want to share the address for the sake of the current family that lives there right now.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, right.
But
It's
I
going to
will.
become a paranormal hotspot.
Yeah, I know. Everybody's going by and they're like, what the fuck is happening here?
Can we do an overnight here? Excuse me, this is my home. What?
I mean, I sent them a letter. I warned them. It's their
Yeah,
fault for
right.
not responding. But I will tell you what street it's on, just in case you live in the area and you want to drive by and try to figure it out. Or maybe you live on that street and you have some idea and you could write to us and help me fill in the gaps.
No
That's
kidding.
really what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So I grew up mostly on a road called Mamie. I know it sounds crazy. It is spelled Mamie. It's Mamie Road, and it's in a neighborhood that's considered Nutbush in Memphis, Tennessee. Now, on a podcast a few weeks ago, I told you guys about the dark figure that I believe to be my recently deceased neighbor that my sister and I both witnessed. But as impressive as that experience was, this one's totally different and much bigger. When I was about 8 years old, I woke up and it was around midnight-ish. I saw a tall, thin figure standing in the doorway of my bedroom. The figure seemed to have its arm resting along the door frame, like above its head. This is a position that my dad often stood in as he would talk to us in our bedrooms. So I thought that this was him, and I sat up and I called to him. That's when the figure dropped its arm and stood upright and then just disappeared.
Wow.
I sat there in shock for a while, and then I worked up the courage to go and investigate. I actually kind of thought that maybe I was in trouble or something. Like it was my dad, and he was like, oh, I woke her up or something like that.
Yeah.
So I go and I check my parents' bedroom. They're not there. So I make my way to the bathroom, and along the way, I saw that my mom was in the kitchen and my dad was in the living room, fully involved in watching something on TV. Like he had food in front of him and he's chuckling or whatever he was watching, you know? So I'm like, doesn't seem like just a few minutes ago he could have been standing in my doorway. But I don't say anything to them, but I asked them the next morning, you know, did you come in and look in on us last night? To which they both replied, no. They actually were like, no, baby, I'm sorry. You know, I was busy. You know, I went straight to bed. And I'm like, no, you weren't. You were watching TV. So
Oh, man, that's funny. Like they were apologizing.
Yeah.
Kind of like.
my dad, worked late hours. And so he would come home. And then often on the weekends, he would kind of just stop in our bedrooms, you know, and maybe if we were still up, we would have a little conversation or whatever. And it was kind of cool when you're little like that and you're getting to stay up past a certain time, you know, just to talk to your dad. So he was being apologetic. And then it was funny because he was like, oh, I was just so tired. And I was like, yeah, you were eating and watching TV at midnight, whatever.
Oh, poor guy. Damn.
So the whole experience, I'm just kind of like, well, that was weird, but I don't really know what happened. So then it takes another 2 years before this spirit decides to show itself again. This time it appeared as a white misty figure, but coming from the same doorway. That's why I assume it's the same thing. This time around, I didn't speak to it though. It just stared at me and I stared at it. It didn't actually have a face, so I'm just assuming it's staring at me. We're both just kind of paused in our spots. But then that bitch started to float towards me and it started to pass through some furniture, at what point I decided to nope the fuck out of the situation.
How old were you again?
I was 10 by now.
Okay.
So I threw myself under the blanket and I prayed to God to make it go away and to never let me see something like that again. And you know what? Since then, I have never seen a ghost in that form before, ever again.
Yeah. I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
You have not seen another ghost since then.
I'm right there with Chris when she's like, you just see that little ghost kid? Did you just see that guy on the stairs? And I'm like, no. And when you were telling your story a minute ago and you're trying to get my attention to look at something and there's some kind of force that's keeping nope, you're going to stare at these bushes instead.
Right.
That's what you get.
That's that is, we've talked about this before, and that is, and I went back and forth on, should I talk about the ghost boy? Should I talk about the shadow man? I've talked about them so many times
Right.
before. So if you guys haven't heard that story, we got like 100 and some odd podcasts. Go on back and
Just
listen.
download them all.
Download them all.
Please. Actually.
I've seen some shit. But the thing is, Wendy is always with me, like I said that, and she'll have some kind of an experience, but she never sees what I see.
Nope. I've seen like shadows out of the corners of my eyes, or you think you just saw something move from a doorway or whatever. But I have never seen a full-bodied apparition ever again. I've never seen a little mist figure. None of that.
None of that.
It's really weird.
It is really weird. It is really weird, especially like you take, okay, the angle when we were in Sedumsville and I turned and I saw the shadow. I could see how you wouldn't see that because of where you were.
Right.
But at the birdcage, I mean, he must have been like right in line with my body for you to miss him, or there's a veil in front of your eyes that hasn't been lifted. Like they won't let you see him anymore.
But it's so
weird.
Strange because I can still sense them being there, and I can still hear things and that type of thing, because this ghost didn't go away. I never saw him again, but he was still there. From that day on until the day that I moved out when I was 18, he was there.